Well, hello everyone. I am Randy Pierce of 2020 Vision Quest and Future Insight, and I'm sitting here in my office in Concord, New Hampshire on a snowy, sleety day, December 22nd, 2021. And that means it was 10 years ago today that I was hiking in somewhat better weather to start my single season winter summit of all 48 4,000 foot peaks. And I had intended to go Facebook Live this morning, but you are getting a video instead because our Facebook Live account has a 24-hour delay before we can be Facebook Live. So I'm going to record this video and then I'll get it uploaded as quick as possible. And in the future, we'll hopefully have that problem resolved. But in the meanwhile, what did I hope to accomplish? Well, in my original plans, I hoped that I was going to get a chance to interview Glenn Gunn to highlight that. And who is Glenn Gunn? Well, he is my orientation and mobility instructor from here at Future Insight. And what does that mean, orientation and mobility? Well, when you lose your sight at any level, and certainly going all the way to my journey in 7 steps of sight loss to total blindness, you have to learn how to navigate the world around you. And many people are probably familiar with a white cane, which is the tactile way to connect to the world around you, and you learn a lot of things from that, both the touching of the obstacles to the sounds that your cane makes that you can learn to interpret in different ways. But it's also all of the mental practices to become aware of how to move around your world in hopefully safe ways, and hopefully ways that help you navigate to where you want to go. And obviously, as that progresses, you can learn how to advance to a guide dog, which is one of my favorite ways to travel. There's an independence and freedom there that takes away some of the tactile and turns you to a more auditory and sometimes olfactory awareness of the cues that help you know where you are. And all of this is great and speaks to just this awareness of where you are. And when you're going to go hiking, hopefully you're going to have some pretty good ways of knowing where you are. So I want to kind of go back to 10 years ago, and where was I and what was I thinking about? I had just started, just over a year into this project of I wanted to take a leisurely 10 years, leisurely in big quotes here, to climb the 4,000 foot peaks here in New Hampshire. There's 48 of those, and what was that going to be like? And the footing was absolutely my biggest challenge, and where to put your feet in the twisty, rocky, rooty steps that comprise most of our trails is a pretty big challenge. And I had hoped to navigate these trails primarily with a guide dog. And I was fairly slow in that process because there's so many obstacles I had to manage on a regular basis and so much communication I had to develop with my guide dogs that it was a tedious journey. Hikes that many people could take in half the time or less that I took were just epic undertakings for me early on. But, at that time, Quinn and I were getting just smoother in our communication and picking up the pace. And it had been suggested to me, originally by Bob Hayes, but certainly substantiated by others, that winter would take away one of my biggest challenges, that the smoothness of snow filling in all those twisty, rocky, rooty parts might make for a different experience. And if it really was that much of an easing of my biggest challenge, could I do something somewhat rare, at that time at least, in doing all 48 in one single winter, which means start on the very first day of winter, which was which was December 22nd that year. And I would have until, I think, March 20th to complete it. And we did so on March 10th, ultimately. But Tecumseh was our first peak, and there's, a lot of discussion about, is it a 4,000 foot peak these days? And I think of the notion of the Welsh mountain that got claimed to be shorter than the classification of a mountain, and how the Welsh people carried rocks and dirt up and made it a mountain. But, Tecumseh was more than enough of a mountain for me, and Glenn Gunn, my orientation and mobility instructor, joined us on that hike. It's the only time I ever had the opportunity to hike with him. Glenn is somebody who appreciates the outdoors here in New Hampshire, and he knows a lot about how people navigate, and I wanted him to witness what was going on with my guide dog, and I want him to give me some feedback to maybe help me on that journey. And both of those things happened in spades. I'm sorry Glenn couldn't be here to do that. I'm getting a chance with Swirl, my new guide dog who's here with me. He's kind of tucked away in his bed here in my corner office, but he and I have hiked a couple of times, had some great experiences. No winter hikes yet, but those are coming, and I hope to be able to relay some of those experiences to you soon. But Swirl and I have had some very basic orientation with the O&M instructor here at Future Insight Now, and that's Michael Mulligan. He's a great guy, and maybe I'll get a chance to introduce you to him. I know there is a video out on Future Insight's webpage. I don't know if they've uploaded it yet, of him and I just going out for a simple walk with Swirl around the block here. But what about climbing mountains? What about, climbing in general? One of the things I love about mountains is they are so synonymous with challenge. And, here I am facing one of the biggest challenges of my life, is how to lead this organization. And I want today to be mostly about mountain discussions, but I think with everything, it's good to get perspective on what the challenges are we're embracing. And what does it mean for all the things around us? And the truth is, what does my new career mean for 2020 Vision Quest? And I can't answer all those questions at this point. It will change, certainly, what I do for 2020 Vision Quest. And what I can tell you is all of the same values are all absolutely true, and we're going to be working all of those things as best we are able, perhaps in a different light, and we will share those as we go into the new year. But let's start with challenges. You work them in steps and you try to understand those things, and that's why we chose Tecumseh at 4,003 feet, or so it was claimed back then. It was a fairly short version of those hikes, fairly direct. There was a ski slope right next door. Literally, you step out on an overlook onto a ski trail, which gave you some of the only views. And how do I appreciate those views is often a question I'm asked. And I do so with the perspective, the sight of others who are on the hike with me, which is also how I navigate. I rarely hiked much of any trail without the accompaniment of other people. And that's partly because I enjoy the celebration. I think it's so important of what people and teams can bring to the experience, but obviously I borrowed their sight to describe things to me at times. Sometimes the trail, sometimes the directional navigation, even though I certainly tried to prepare as well as possible each time. But always I tried to ensure that I was adding my value as well. Sometimes because I've read the description of the trail, so I know what we could expect. Sometimes it's because I've read and explored the history, so I'm adding some of the things that I found captivating. Maybe some people disagreed at times, but those of you who are still listening on this video obviously are looking for some of the gems that I might share. And in order to keep this video from going too much longer, let me add this, right? Give me your comments and your questions, in any format, whether you're seeing this on our YouTube channel or whether you're watching this on our various social media platforms. What I hope to do is always be able to be transparent and candid with the whole process. Hiking 48 in one winter was hard. Hiking every single mountain is generally hard for me. But the hard and the challenge in any experience is usually something we choose, we undertake because the rewards are more than worth it. And that was true on Tecumseh, as one of my rewards was I got to meet this marvelous woman, Dina, who filmed our documentary film, 4 More Feet, which you can watch on Prime Video, either rent or purchase. But, that was the first day I met her. And she became a valued and trusted friend. And she'll play a big part in this because she joined me on not every hike, but many of them, so she could capture some of the footage that exists in that film. And that connection and meeting of people and building of relationships is certainly foundational in my world. But I think also the way I learned to grow with my guide dog and with the various people who joined me on that journey is a fundamental part of that, including the things I learned about myself. Right? And that's why I think we choose experiences. And in this newest experience I'm undertaking, I'm certainly going to learn a lot about myself. I think I'm going to add a tremendous bit of value, or I wouldn't be here. Others must share that opinion, or they wouldn't have invited me to be here. And I'm inviting all of you to be along on all aspects of this ride, because together, I think I'll get a chance to learn from all of your insights and share with you a pretty marvelous journey that goes well beyond the 48 winter peaks that I'm going to share going on each day forward. Next hike for me was Mount Jackson on Christmas Day. And I started out with my wife and another couple, and we had some tough points on that hike. Took us a lot longer than expected, as did many. But it was day 2 of our hiking. So until Christmas Day, where I'll hopefully post a little social media update, probably not a video. Thank you for joining me for this little bit. I hope there's been some gems here, and I hope I'll have more for you in the future. Take care, be well, and happy holidays.